when it's book club night, but there's also a fireworks show. You go ahead and bring your computer with you and plan to record just in case. And then you record at your desk. Thanks for watching this special book club replay. I decided to go ahead and do a little bit longer recording for this month's book club. And what I want to do is share with you guys some book club recommendations, and you'll find out why in just a minute. But first, I want to say that we are midway through our 2023 LAM Summer Reading Challenge, and it has been an absolute blast. I hope that you have been joining in with the fun. I hope that you have enjoyed what you have been participating in so far. If you haven't joined, you are not too late. There is so much more to come. We have 3 more featured authors, including chats with those authors. And then we will have a final Authors of the Roundtable event. I'm calling it our wind down. And it will be when we announce our 2 grand prize winners from the summer. We will also have our final weekly winner that night. And everyone who shows up live for that event, their names will be entered into the drawing for our final Book Swag prize pack winner. So, huge deal. Now, this is a little bit different from our regular book club meetings. So just in case you're wondering, we do have book club meetings virtually each month, the first Monday of each month. And typically, I don't share our recordings in public. Just want to make all of our book club members feel comfortable that they do get the recordings, but it's just for our members. And this month, though, is a little different because I wanted to share with you guys. So I told you I was going to tell you why the book club recommendations, and here it is. If you have been to the hub for all things summer reading, that is joyerankatori.com/summer-reading. You can find all of the details about summer reading, including the 8 reading categories. So one of those reading categories is a book club recommendation. Now, I am totally fine if you have your own book club and you have gotten a recommendation from them of a book to read, or if you've looked on some of the book club lists that you can find online and you've gotten a book club recommendation off one of those, that's totally fine too. But I wanted to give you something a little extra. So from LAM Book Club, I'm going to give you some recommendations that you can read. These recommendations will be by genre, and I've kind of chosen some of the more popular genres and have made a list, and I'm going to go through these kind of quickly. So if you have any issues finding some of these books, I'm going to show you some of the books in person so you'll actually see the covers. And of course, you can always rewind and listen. But if you have any issues or questions, be sure to put that in the comments. And if I don't cover a genre that you really like to read, please put that in the comments and ask for recommendations. I may have one for you. We'll see. If not, I can definitely say I don't have a recommendation, but we will find you one. All right, so first up, let's cover our fantasy. So I do love fantasy, as you guys know. So your typical fantasy, I would love to recommend. First of all, my dear friend, Rachel Ritchie has her trilogy. This is the Chronicles of the 12 Realms, and it begins with The Beauty Thief. So I highly recommend those, as well as of course, you have your classics. There's Chronicles of Narnia. There's The Lord of the Rings, which I'll come to later. But if you're looking for something a little bit more recently published, definitely recommend hers. Now, if you're looking for more specifically urban fantasy, I'm currently reading Regeneration by Cassie Grootman, who is a fellow Indie Author Project winner from 2022. So this is a great book. I'm really enjoying the read so far. And this is also part of a series. So urban fantasy. I also recommend Montrez, who has been a featured author in the past. And her book, Errant, that's another great urban fantasy book that you might like. Oh, and I completely forgot when I was talking about just, typical fantasy books, another fantastic series if you are up for a lot of books, The 10th book, there are 9.5 of the books out currently. Number 10, I believe, is launching this fall or next fall. I can't remember. But that is Shannon Messenger's Keeper of the Lost Cities. And it is a delight to read. That's also a great one for younger readers. So, younger readers, I would say, in some cases, depending on your child, middle grade and up, could be a little bit older and up. That's up to you. But I love it as an adult. And then historical fantasy. This is a genre that I really have gotten to love. I was kind of introduced to it through Nadine Brandy's Romanov, and it has some magic, but there's also a lot of the historical elements or historical people in it. Another great series is Michael Scott's The Immortal Nicholas Flamel, and there are 6 of those books. I thoroughly enjoyed reading those as well. And then sci-fi. So, of course, you got the classic C.S. Lewis with his trilogy of sci-fi books, but a little bit more recent, you have Ronnie Kendig with Brand of Light, and this is the Drossarin Saga. She just released the final book, book 4. So there are 4 books in this series, and they are all currently out. Up next, for our clean romance friends and fans, I have a few recommendations for you guys. So, first of all, Janet Ferguson. This is one of her books. I also really enjoy, this is Magnolia Storms, in case you don't see the cover, but I also really enjoyed Healing Sky by her, and Sky, S-K-Y-E. And Michelle Keener has a trilogy. It's the Red Carpet Romance trilogy, and it begins with Mission Hollywood. These are fantastic books. Highly recommend. You're going to hear that a lot from me. Okay. And then, let's see, clean romance, women's fiction. Now, women's fiction, these particular books do have some elements of romance in them, but they're not the main part. Honestly, the main part about these books is the friendships of the women in the books, and I love that. I love the groups of women in these books. This is Julie Mayerson Brown's Clearwater series, and this is her most recent in the series, The Everywhere Girl. This one just came out, I believe, last fall. There are 4 books currently out, plus a novella. You're going to love this little town and the women who live there. Historical fiction. I love historical fiction. So I have several to recommend. One of our featured authors, Alina Rubin, writes historical fiction, so her Hearts and Sails series, which she has 2 books currently out, plus a novella. And then Susanna Kersley, I really love her books. The Winter Sea was fantastic. And Lisa C. is another favorite of mine. This is Peonian Love. Her favorite of mine, though, I actually don't have my own copy of. It's Snowflower and the Secret Fan. Did I say it right? I did. Yay. That was one of my absolute favorite books, and it introduced me to her. So if you love historical fiction, I definitely recommend her books, Susanna Kersley, Alina Rubin, and there are many others. Just trying to give you some fast ideas here. For literary fiction, I loved The Keeper of Lost Things by Ruth Hogan. I don't have that book. I checked that one out from my library. It was fantastic. I can also recommend my books. They sort of fall into that literary fiction genre. To be more specific, I like to call them Southern fiction with Christian roots, but they certainly have literary elements to them. So those are a few options there. Now, what about classics? So I don't know about you. I happen to love the classics. All of my absolute favorite books would fall in the category of classics. So I'm just going to tell you what they are. My number 1 favorite is really anything by J.R.R. Tolkien, but The Silmarillion is my favorite of his works. Of course, The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, everything that he wrote is fantastic, but I'll throw out The Silmarillion there. Also, Quo Vadis, which you can kind of see this green book right here. That's an older copy of it, and it is by Heinrich Sinkowitz. I'm sure I said that wrong. It is a fantastic book set during early biblical times, or not early biblical times, but early New Testament times, soon after the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. It's set around Paul and Peter, although they're not main characters in the book, but that's the time period, and those are the people that it follows. Fantastic. Highly recommend. And then my third favorite is actually a tie. Okay, the Sisters of Tide. And one of these days, I'm going to read a book by the other Bronte so that I can see if I have a three-way tie or not. Wuthering Heights and Jane Eyre. Definitely recommend them if you're looking for a classic. All right, so that's classics. For mystery, now I grew up reading mysteries voraciously. Okay, I was a huge Agatha Christie fan. I read everything that Mary Higgins Clark wrote and just ate those books up. I'm going to recommend to you The Existence of V. Pearl. This is one of our authors of the Round Table, and this is by Candace Marley Connor. And this is a YA book that has a little bit of a Southern Gothic flair, but it is a fantastic mystery as well. So definitely recommend that one. And then for psychological thrillers, okay, I actually like, and I'm not a horror fan, okay, so you're not going to hear a horror recommendation. This is more psychological. This is Stephen King's The Dead Zone, and I really, really enjoyed this book. I have read some of his other more psychological thriller type books, and I have really enjoyed them. His writing, I mean, whether you like horror or not, you have to admit that he is an incredible author. So that would be my recommendation for that genre. Then kind of a magical realism, dystopian, fantasy-ish, a little bit genre bending. I feel like Maggie Stiefvater is kind of the perfect example of blending genres and kind of doing her own thing. So I would recommend, with the magical realism part, highly recommend All the Crooked Saints. I don't have my own copy of that one, but it is so good. Oh, it's really, really good. And then The Scorpio Races. Absolutely wonderful. Definitely. In fact, I'm going to read you the first line because you can't not read this first line. And once I read this first line, you're going to want to read it. It is the first day of November, and so today, someone will die. Yeah, you're going to want to read that. All right, up next, I've got 3 more genres to share with you guys, and then we're going to be done. So, like I said, if you have any questions, if you want other recommendations, drop those in the comments. I can't wait to hear from you. Up next, biography. This is one of my absolute favorites, and it's not a biography about one person. It's a biography about 4. So this is The Fellowship, The Literary Lives of the Inklings, and it is by Philip and Carol Zaleski. This book was hugely influential in my start as an indie author. In fact, it inspired the name for my publishing company and Summer Reading Challenge and book club, Logos and Mythos. So that's where this came from, or was inspired by. Highly recommend this book. If you prefer nonfiction, I'm going to give you 2 nonfiction recommendations. One is for writers and one is for readers. So if you are a writer, I would love to recommend Be the Gateway by Dan Blank. This is a different look at how to market yourself and your books. It is a practical guide to sharing your creative work and engaging an audience. It's all about people-focused marketing without using that word necessarily. It's really more about thinking about what you have to offer and giving experiences to other people. And this has always really been my philosophy, and it just puts everything into words and has given me a great go-to guide for how to do that well. So, Be the Gateway, if you are a writer, and if you're a reader, this is a book that I read, my kids read, and it was quite helpful in just being a reader, how to read a book. which seems like, really, do we need a book for that? But let me just tell you, this will change the way that you read. It will help you be a better reader. And this is by Mortimer Adler. So this book has actually been around for a little while. It stands the test of time. So recommended. All right. Once again, I hope you guys are having a fantastic month. I hope that you're reading some great books. I'd love to hear what you're reading. Put that in the comments. I'm always looking for new books too. So whatever you are reading, share that in the comments. If you're looking for other recommendations, other specific genres that I didn't cover, drop that in there and we'll figure something out for you. And once again, don't forget, one whole full month still to go for LAM Summer Reading. Definitely join in the fun. Go to joyerankatory.com/summer-reading for all of the details to find out how it works, how you can win prizes, and what the other categories are for reading. Happy reading!